All right, let's try that again. All right, let's see my back screen here. Whitewater rafting days in the early days. I think we'll have to talk about that. That's classic. Can't really. Okay, I think we got it figured out now. Good to see everybody here. Thank you. All righty. Well, until the massive crowd arrives. Hey, everybody. The clips old Sturgis wanted me to show him. They cost about 50 cents. Best things I ever bought at Harbor Freight. So I'll show you. But I got to find my tarp first. Little tarp craft. So yeah, everybody, this is kind of what I'm doing here with every. If it gets too hot, I run a tarp here. Where is that other one? Oh yeah. Giving you some tarp craft. is that one? Here, you guys take a little raft ride while we're hanging around here. Do it this way. They're everywhere. Dark craft. This is just for me tonight. I got to do something here. That's no good. Let's get one over there. Not going to rain tonight, though. That's for dang sure. So, before I put this up there, there it is. Hey, I'm going to sit down in a second. If you don't know me, you don't feel like waiting, I don't blame you. I'll be right there. So what we're doing here, in case you just catch me, is I'm putting up a little tarp. I do a lot of tarp craft, and I want to show you guys something. I'm always cruising around, and I'm stealth camping, and I'm always looking for. I always have to put my tarp up somewhere. So these tripods, I actually have 4 of them, but I'll take 2 all the time, not just for my GoPro, but to clip on to things in my tarp or whatever. These things, they rotate. They're really handy. You can use. They're bomb proof. You can tie stuff to them. So this one, excuse me, this one here is what is this one? The Olanzi. There's a whole bunch of them, but this one's really bomb proof. I love that. And I'm hauling around like 4 of those. And so, yeah, I'll use it not only for like the GoPro and stuff, but just for like I'm doing right here, just for tomorrow. It's going to be hot. And I'm going to want some shade while I'm working over here doing some stuff. So I just clamp it wherever I want. It's like really easy. And then I just stake out, you know, the corners. So anyway, that's how I do that. Because I pretty much, this is what I do all the time because I don't live anywhere. Anywho. Any fucking who. I should have liked that idea. So yeah, I mean, as soon as I see somebody over there, I'll sit down. Hey, everybody. Okay. Fantastic. Welcome. Welcome to Uncle D's Weird and Wacky Super Psychedelic Tectonic Tours. Because you can. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I'm not going to sit down. Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Got all this time. Let's go, little buddy. Maybe I'll use a different one then. Wow, dude, that's hard as a rock. Then what you do, get the old hammer. Hey, everybody, I'm going to sit down now. I'm out here messing around. Even though as soon as I sit down, don't leave. All right, take a little rap trip for a second while I get it tidied up. So, hey guys, if you've been here before, you know me. Hey, one person. I bet you're a very special person. I bet I know you probably. I'm just messing around with the tarps. Got a couple of new tarps. Been out all day. Not hot today though. Beautiful day, really. And then I did a video about rafting. I was going to talk about this poster when a few people show up. That's old. That's back when I first started rafting. Well, actually, I wasn't even rafting yet. I was working in the kitchen at the resort, and I was looking down at the boats going by. And I was like, you know, this sucks in the kitchen. I want to be down there on that boat, even though it was a really hard job and it's cold water. It was a hard job at first, but cold water, 3 times a day, the same stretch of river, 13 miles, 8 people in the raft, usually pretty overweight, which is okay. I mean, but until you put them in a raft with a guy like me, I got to stay strong, get them down the river. And that was my old job right there, guy in the middle, or captain, or rig, not a paddle boat, which we did later on. Later in the 90s, we started doing that. But you can see these people here. Check it out. If you're still with me, one person, these people are in yellow Helly Hansen rain gear, rain suits. Those are deadly. They didn't help. And rubber boots, and that water's glacial fed. It comes off a glacier about 15 miles up. So people died. I got a lot of stories about those days when people would die, and we didn't lose anyone, thank God. But all the companies around us were losing people, and we were the first company to put people in dry suits. And we actually worked with the company called Kokatat to create the first whitewater river dry suit for Alaskan glacier-fed water. So you're this one person here learning some some Alaska raft history. So, how are you? Who are you? Where do you live? I'm having a little coffee. We'll talk about all that stuff. If there's anything special you'd like to talk about, let me know. And it's at some point I'm going to talk about a few other things. But hey, second person, happy Monday evening. I had to think about what it was. Hey, we were just talking about this rafting picture back in the 80s when I first started rafting up in Alaska on the Nenana River. We don't have to talk about that. I just thought it'd be a good, subject. I just did a video last night or this morning or something. I can't remember. Oh, there goes that other person. It's funny. It's just like I don't know how to describe it. Like in another country, you might look in a store, like, hey, that looks like a neat store. And then you poke your head and go, don't want to go in there. And then you keep walking. These little shops in Nepal and stuff. Oh, see you later. Okay, good. I'll keep working then. If you didn't like me, I don't like you either. Just kidding. Oh, hey, there you are. You came back. People are coming and going, so I'm coming and going. Just talking about this poster behind me. Say hello if you already heard that quick story on that poster of the old rafting job I had back in the day in the 80s, right there, going down the river. That's a glacial-fed river in Alaska. Hey, if you have any questions, let me know. I was just working on bike stuff and gear, listening to the neighbors walk by. This is really cool. Just trying to do some arm motions, get the action happening since I'm sitting down again. Anywho, well, we'll just stand up. Happy evening to you. Thumbs up for everybody that came and sat down for a minute. I'll just pack it up. Hey, Jack. How are you? What's going on? Man, I'm having fun with it. We're just putting up some tarps here. Just wrangling some mosquitoes out here. That's all. Luckily, there's no wind. I mean, there is wind. Hey, good evening to you. Unless you just came back. I'm just going through some gear, talking about this poster behind me. I did a a video earlier today about rafting. So welcome. You can say hello if you want, and see you. Well, I think I'll tell a little story now. Okay, since you guys are all here on Instagram, I'll start talking to you. Looks like I got 10 people over there. 0 over here at Tectonic YouTube channel. Yeah, just going to talk about that photo. Let me get a bench. All right, here we go. In the video that I made, I believe I posted that last night, that incident on the river or something like that. And I'm gonna start numbering my videos. It's just too much for me, and maybe I can get some help with that. And let me get rid of some hair here for a minute. I'm shedding. So yeah. Anyway, that's okay. So what we're gonna talk about is this era of my time up in Alaska, and it was this picture was in 19. Let me think a second here. That photo was in 1984 on the Nenana River. I'm sorry, 1985. And this is kind of early days when the river had its first couple of companies, and we were just starting out up there. Now, at this time, I wasn't even on the water yet. I was new, so this is what's happening here in this story. So, got up there the summer of '84. Got a job as a cook, and at that point, I was like, I'm watching these guys go by on the river, and having a good old time, making good money and tips and everything. And I didn't really want to be in the kitchen or the restaurant. So I decided, all right, forget it. I'm going to go down there and talk to this raft company, right? And now what happened? There was a friend of mine who I went to Alaska with, and then another girl that worked in the dining room, and she decided, I'm going to go do that too. So the three of it, they went before me, and they got jobs before I did. I didn't follow through as much as they did, and they got on the river every day after work, and they committed to it. Now I didn't feel like after cooking or doing any of my jobs, I just wasn't committed enough to go after work and learn how to go down the river until the next season. So the next season I committed and got myself out of that position and got down on the river and started working on the river. So that's how that all unfolded in about 1985. So 1985, this picture here, this is a bunch of employees on their fam trip when we were first starting out the season, and all getting to know each other, and for them to get familiar with the river so they could talk about it in the dining room and stuff like that. So that's how it all started for me in Alaska, was working up in the kitchen, watching these guys go have fun. I got a job here at Owl Rafting that next season, and from that year on, now I was a bus driver at first. You have to start, start early. Hey, welcome, whoever just showed up. I was talking to myself for the first few minutes, but I figured it's I'm telling a story and it'll be recorded, and it's a good one. So everybody's missing out on a good story, but they'll get to watch it later. So anyway, I started there, and I I'm going to talk about that first incident, though, that we had that summer, my first summer up there, in a little bit after I get done talking about how I ended up there and stuff. But yeah, pretty amazing. Like these people here, these are all employees, people that work for the resort. I even remember these people, and this is almost 40 years ago. And this guy, Tom, here, I remember him. So this was when we all first started rafting. Hey, welcome, whoever just showed up. I've been talking to myself, and I haven't heard anyone say hello or anything. So you're welcome to just listen. But if you have any questions, tonight I'm just talking about my old job rafting for many years, working for the raft company in Denali National Park, Alaska. And that's how Alaska started for me, and many years of that. And then I went into guiding in the mountains, climbing, but I always worked for the raft company in the summer because, up on the glacier where I worked in the mountains, the climbing season and that glacier travel season kind of ends in July or in June. So I would have each job figured out. I'd go up on the mountain. I had my own permit to guide up on the Ruth Glacier and several other places in Alaska. And then I'd go work for the raft company. This is the first company I worked for. Now, you guys are lucky you're here. I said that a minute ago and two people left. They don't do this anymore. They don't put people in that old yellow rubber rain gear. They have dry suits. And we were the first company to actually work with Kokatat, which is a dry suit making company, and to make dry suits for this river. It's glacial fed. It's like 40 degrees, 36 degrees. It's almost frozen. It was a glacier like 10 miles upstream, so that's coming right out of the glacier. And so Goldwater, you can't, like back then, if anyone fell into the river in one of these suits, they'd be dead. Like, so you just couldn't have a swimmer in the river. It was really important for the guide here in the middle, me or whoever's doing that, to keep the boat straight and keep people in the boat, And so, but now they use dry suits. Back in these days, I call them death suits. Those are deadly. They fill up with water, and you get taken downstream, And we had, and I'm gonna. All right, so I'll just go into that story in a minute. That story happened this summer, and this is not the last summer we used the rubber rain gear, but we quit using that stuff, that crap, a couple of years later. It was too stressful for me, like as a young, inexperienced guide, I couldn't. I worried all the time about having a swimmer. In California, Colorado, a lot of places, yeah, I mean, it's cold water for sure. But if you have a swimmer there, they might survive. They wouldn't really survive long here. I swam in shorts, in a T-shirt, in Tevas, whatever they call them. Back now, I used to call them Tevas. Anyway, I swam the river in those and almost died, but that's another story. Should have been in, and that was back when we were like, see, he's in a T-shirt, Tom, this guy right here. He's rowing that boat in a T-shirt. You never see that these days. You're going to have a dry top on. But back then, just show up and work for the company and, just get on the boat. I'm from California. I don't know anybody, and then get lucky, if you're lucky. So we did have another company. Now, my company, luckily, thank God, we never had a death. We had some accidents. We had one of these big old oars injured people a couple times pop off this pin here and go into somebody like their side or something. That's happened because that's big water. Really, it doesn't look like much. It looks like a little bubbling stream, but it's big and cold. And this is called Two Rocks Rapid, and it's real mellow where they can take a picture. I have a video I made yesterday or last night. Check it out. There are a couple pictures in there. I don't have any rafting like action shots in here other than just pictures. I mean, video, because this is many years ago. So, I've been climbing since then and cycling, and that's kind of what I do now. This channel is a lot about cycling, but I go into a lot of stories. And hey, there you are. Who are you? Hey, welcome. Sorry, I mean to be reading this thing. Did you all tell them? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I was going to go into how we do the safety talk. We did a big safety talk ahead of time, and here's how we would word that. And we wouldn't exactly say it like you said it there, but I mean, that's what it meant is We tell them how to, swim downstream if they find themselves in the water with their feet in front of them, feet, with a short back paddle outside, lateral, not just straight upstream. We tell them the whole thing, what to do. Put their back toward the boat when they fall out so we can grab their life jacket and pull them in. That's the first thing we tell them is that life jacket is how we get you back in the boat. So we say, find yourself in the water. First thing you do, if you're close to the boat, turn your back to the boat. Everybody here is going to be fairly educated on pull them in. And I can't do anything in the middle of the boat if I'm in the middle of, some rapids or any waves or anything. I got to stay on the oars. So yeah, safety talk. And then you kind of finalize it with, and if you fall in, you could die. And that's exactly what you say. Now, these days, the safety talk's a little different, even though they do. I mean, it's serious, but the safety talk is a little different because we wear dry suits, or they wear dry suits. So the whole thing's changed. The dynamic has changed, and the safety talk is a little less because we actually let people jump in the water in the slow sections where it's calm in those dry suits these days. I don't, not we, them. I don't do it anymore. But the kids, the young guys, they are the young people, and there's still people my age that do the job. They let them swim, but they let them swim if they're younger people, and it's usually during a paddle raft where everybody has a paddle. We do paddle rafts. I worked for a company called Denali Outdoor Center later, and they were my friends from this company. We all started here, and they started a company. This was OWL, OWL rafting, and they started a company called Denali Outdoor Center. So, and what I did for them mainly was drive a bus, and I built the whole rafting facility, the whole campground, all the buildings, all the raft shacks, the raft guide housing. That was me. So when the raft guide showed up for the season, they would come and find Darren, me, and everything's broken in the beginning of the season. It's Alaska, the rafters live in some pretty shabby stuff. I built new stuff. They used to put them in trailers. I say we because I feel like I own the company because the owners were like some of my best friends, and I helped kind of build that company up for a lot, But I had my gig on the glacier, and I did glacier travel, top mountaineering, glacier travel. That was my gig, and then later down in Seward, working with the cruise ships, helicopter, and that whole gig, taking people up to the glacier. So anyway, yeah, that's where it all started for me on that river. Some of these people, I still even know one of these people, this girl here in the front, and she's still on Facebook. I don't really talk to her much, but that's 1985, actually. No, I said 84. So where that all started. Hey, if you're here new, I'm just chit-chatting about my old whitewater rafting company days in Alaska and some other stuff. The bike's in the background taking a rest. Went for a good ride today out in the desert. It's kind of cool today. It was only 86 and not too bad. Just same old smog. But, got to get out and do it anyway somehow. Out in it. Well, hello, everybody. Ask any questions you like. If you have any questions about me or the rafting or anything at all, Tectonic Traveller. I was talking about how cool I use these for my GoPro. And, they're great, those little mount tripods. But I'm starting to use them for like some of my tarp craft. And I just use them to tie stuff to now. They're really great. Anyway, and then, hey, fourth person. Not to get boring, but I was just showing you this clip here. Harbor Freight, best little clips. If you're a camper, if you guys camp and you're in your tent and you want to leave the door open, you got to roll it and then put that little thing through the loop. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. But I just roll up the tarp like this when I'm inside and just put this clip around it. It doesn't hurt the tent. It's got these soft little things on there. And then when you don't want to mess with that little thing, trying to get that thing out of the loop, you just unclip this thing and forget about it, man. It's a pain in the ass. That's what I do. Hey, Paul, what's going on? Right now? pretty far south of Temecula, way down. Well, I was in Temecula, now almost to Mexico, like south of Romaland, down in that area. I'm going to an appointment in Mexico next week. I'll be going back and forth to Mexico before I do my trip to Copper Canyon. And then that's where I'll venture south out of Copper Canyon and then head through there, see how it goes. And but definitely south till I get home to Medellin, Colombia, my other home. That's my other. And there's even desert in Colombia. A lot of people don't. I'm going to check it out. I haven't been there yet, so I've been up checking out. I lived there for a year, and I was up in the pretty much the Andes, and then out in on the coast near Santa Marta. Oh, nice. Was it hot? It seemed like a hot. See, that's the thing out here. It's just I'm not used to the heat. I guess I am at time to time, but I'm out on the Eastern Sierra. It's hot out there, but just down here it's a little different. But I think it's also the air quality where I am. Well, not now, but where I was recently. So yeah, real hot. Hey man, thanks for watching. I don't know if you've been here before or you just popped in today, but I'm just talking mainly bike stuff, and then I've been telling a bunch of stories and then going into Alaska stories and camping stuff and trying to keep it, to camping, outdoor stuff, hiking and biking and, some throwing some tips in there. Right on. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was, yeah. See, I remember your name. It's hard to remember everybody because I can't look at the feed every day. But it's after a couple times and looking at your name closer, I can remember people. A couple people that show up all the time, I haven't seen yet tonight, and I'm kind of surprised. But we have a guy named. He's been making me some music, Barrio Mio. But hey, if you just got here, I was talking about my early rafting days in Alaska and pretty much how I worked that every summer, and then in the spring I was a mountain guy. I guide up in the mountains, glaciers or whatever, up in the Alaska range, and then come down to the rafting job as the season started and the river thawed out. So that's where I would spend my summers, Denali National Park, for a whole bunch of years. I'm from California, but went there when I was 18. These people here, this is Owl Rafting Company I worked for in 1985. And this is a guy wearing a T-shirt, which nobody does anymore on that river. It's all dry suits. This is back when we were not so educated and a little ignorant, and wearing rain gear. These people wearing Helly Hansen rain suits, if you know what those are, and rubber boots, which we called them death suits because people would die in those if they fell in the river. Just fill up with water, glacial fed. That's glacial water. It was a glacier like not too long ago, 13 miles upstream. So, yeah, back then didn't know really. After a couple of deaths, not us, but the local companies had some people die, and finally people got smart. The company I worked for and with basically started the river dry suit for Kokatat with Kokatat, and it was all kind of tested on this river called the Nenana. And so if you know Kokatat or any of that stuff, if you're a boater, and that was a fun summer. We got to try out. This is a funny story. We got to try out semi dry suits before they had dry suits, and those were just as deadly as these things. They would fill up with water. They would still get water through it, so they'd just fill up like a balloon, and that was worse than this because these just flush through the water. But man, you get one of those. You fill up like a balloon, you're dead. I told a story on my video last night about the people that would come through in the summer, like the weekenders, and going, "Hey, we got a raft or Kmart raft," or man, I've got story after story, and none of those stories are boring. This kind of stuff you're talking about, the employees and hanging around it. It's kind of it's not a lot of excitement, but I got that, and I want to ease into the stories. I'm going to leave this video not private, so people can watch it, in the future and learn a little bit about what happened in the past with me and where I started Alaska and all this kind of stuff. It's how Outward Bound, Colorado, a semester in Leadville, Colorado, and then I went right to Alaska. My instructors were going to Alaska to climb Denali, so I thought in my head, well, I'm going to go do that too, and that's what I did. So, and I ended up knowing them for years and still know who they. I don't talk to them, but they're all famous now, all that mountain guy, mountain biking stuff. Anyway, whoa, sorry everybody, I just kicked you. Anyway, that's the days. That's the start of my river life. And I always tell people I wasn't really a raft guide, river person my whole life. I was a mountain guide, but I did this for a job, and then it kind of opened up some other doors, and I did multi-day trips. What you're looking at here is people going down a 13-mile section of river 4 times a day. The guide taking this, tourist down. So this would get old real quick for a guide. We had women and men guides, girls and guys. Hey, from Fairbanks, right on. Lived in Fairbanks. Have lots of friends in Fairbanks. Every time I go to Fred Meyer at the one out by the college, Fred Meyer, I always go, I'm going to see somebody I know as soon as I walk in there. Every single time. Welcome. Did you just run across me, or have you been here? Arctic Vanilla, right on. That's so cool. Yeah, I lived in Denali for 35 years, and so Fairbanks was my grocery run, and also just worked a lot of. I'm a carpenter, so tons of jobs out of Fairbanks, and Denali, Healy, North Slope, Fairbanks, back and forth, all a little bit of Anchorage, but I was mainly interior, up where you are. No way. Well, that makes me feel really good. I was just saying today to somebody, I go, I don't know, my channel, I have got 800 subscribers, kind of slowed down. I made a mistake on here and deleted some videos, and it messed up my thing. And if that's what it is, might be something else. And then, and I was like, I hope somebody watches this stuff and is inspired. I've had a few people say that, but the more the better, man. It motivates me to keep, doing it, as I'm traveling. And I'm coming back to Alaska, well, a couple of times before next year, but next May, I've just got way too busy of a schedule, but I'll be on the north side of Denali next May, starting in Kantishna. And I have a friend who owns a lodge out in Kantishna, Greg LaHaye, and it's called Skyline Lodge. And oh yeah, I have. Actually, I spent part of the winter in Fairbanks out on Farmer's Loop, house sitting a dry cabin. I have lived in a lot of dry cabins. I lived on Stampede Road in Healy, which is kind of our subdivision in Healy where, the kid in the bus died, all that. It got famous out there. That's where I used to live, that road. But Fairbanks, I lived on Farmer's Loop. And then I've stayed in a lot of houses, outside town. But yeah, I miss it. I do miss it. I miss visiting. And, I spent so many construction winters that I can't say I miss the construction in the winter, but I do miss the, how can I not? It's in my blood since I was 18 years old. So I just, I love it though. Thanks for watching. Thanks for, be good to meet you someday. Yeah, probably see you at Fred Meyer, or who knows, you'll see me. I won't know who you are, but because that's where I go. I always went to that one at that end of the town. Now I used to go to the old one. If I don't know how long you've been in Fairbanks, but there was one in the 80s, and it was way over on the other side where the people honking, where the newer one is over there by Walmart and all that. Skinny Dick's, yep. Yeah, I know he passed away. I think his daughter bought it. The bus is at the museum now. So yeah, I was out at my so I was there at my cabin, and this is the day I was planting garden out on Stampede. And by the way, I just bought a bunch of stuff from Fred Meyer. That's where I get all my flowers and stuff and my lettuce starters. And I was out of there, and they were helicoptering the bus out of with a big Chinook, not an army one. It was one that was sold to a private mover, and they were went right over my house, and I have pictures. I have pictures of that. I don't have to do a video. I have so many videos and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, I just sit here and tell stories, and I forget. Oh yeah, I have those photos, like this one here. This is this is a big old card we had in our office at Al Rafting. I stole it. Well, I didn't steal it. They were just moving out, and we were. It was closing. That raft company was closing, and my friends were starting a new company. So we got all the old Al Rafting stuff. I took this and some of all the old letterhead and all that kind of stuff, because that was those are classic times in Denali. If there's any guys or people that watch this or know that was the beginning of almost the beginning. There was the 70s company through the 70s called Denali Raft, always there, and they're still there. Right on, Skinny Dicks. Yeah, Skinny Dicks. So I've stayed there. Well, I made a video about you watch it, probably that one. And then I've been in there a whole bunch of times. I took my mom in there, and we left her dog. Tourists, friends who've come to Alaska over all the years. Skinny Dicks. You got to go in and leave your dollar on the wall. So, well, I bought a lot of cars in Fairbanks. That was just a place to get it. It's always it was. I don't know how it is this year, but it was for a summer person like coming up to Denali, and just like it's their first year and they just want a cheap car. Let's go to Fairbanks, get a $500 car. You don't have to have a smog down in Denali. Just get a beater and beat the crap out of it all summer and drive it all over the place, and then sell it to somebody else for a couple $100. That's what we used to do. I see cars in Denali in the park that young kids are driving, right? That was in parked in the junkyard, not junkyard, but this area where all our old cars are, and all of us people that left cars, there's no junkyard really. And so there's old cars that we had back in the day, and none of them real special. Some of them were people come and they would steal them. But there's some old junky cars there, and we would see kids fix them up, and they'd be driving around Denali, and they had just went and got the car, got the stuff, and went to the DMV, got a title, figured it all out. Or it's a car we kept selling. Somebody kept selling over the years, and really old, crappy old one was a Vista Cruiser. I don't know if anyone remembers that. It's a 70s Vista Cruiser. It was a station wagon, and boy, I have stories about that car as a guide with my clients using the Vista Cruiser. I got my clients in it because the van broke down. That's how we operate in Alaska. It's like something breaks down, man, just get one else out, get the other one out, keep everything rolling. It's not like here where you can just go buy something or, just roll over and just go buy it. You got to use what you have on hand. At least I did more then, not, I talk like I'm still doing it, but people talk about off grid. I just made a video about my friend, Infinite Cup, Robert. He's Infinite Cups. He's a full-time YouTuber friend of mine. My first bike tour I did with him. And, so I lived off the grid in Denali, but before I even knew what off the grid meant, I knew what it meant, but it wasn't off the grid. It was just like we didn't have water. We hauled our water, and we don't have electricity. So we don't have those two things, and we live in a dry cabin. We have an outhouse, that's fully functional, has a light and a heater and the whole 9 yards. Arctic vanilla, you probably know what I'm talking about. And that's real common in Alaska. But you come down here to California and people turn on the water and they go, wow, it comes right out of the wall. I'm like, you don't know where the water comes from. And they steal it from the Owens Valley anyway. We won't go into where the whole water thing here is crazy after coming from Alaska, because at my place, I had a spring. I just went down and filled up my spring. I had my 5-gallon buckets at the spring, put lids on them, even in the winter. Spring stayed open. There's a big hole in the snow because we kept it dug out, and also it doesn't freeze. It's moving along. So we fill up our buckets, put them in the back of the truck, drive home. We live 5 miles away, depending on where we lived. And everything's frozen. Buckets are not frozen solid, and then bring them into our Arctic entryway, which is just our porch, and it's heated, and then they thaw out right there, and that's our water. And we had a slop bucket under the sink, and which is just a bucket under the sink. Make sure you don't forget to empty it. And but a nice cabin, beautiful propane lights, fully off the grid, no solar. Back then there was solar, but like we listened to AM, FM radio, AM radio most of the time. In Fairbanks, it was called Tradio. And I don't know Arctic Vanilla if they still have Tradio. It's like a radio station, and people will go, yeah, I got this tractor for sale out here on, Farmers Loop Road, and, stuff like that. Or, hey, I've got, some inner tubes for sale over here. And you get their phone number. And I bought my cars like that before. And it's classic. Tradio, Fairbanks, Alaska. And the other thing, since I'm rolling on about this, I'm glad you're all here, all 5 of you. Welcome. Talking about Alaska, we got Arctic Vanilla, and we got Paul here. Now, I'm calling first names sometimes because I can't see very. Paul Hallman, 3, and we're talking Alaska stuff. But yeah, off the grid, and before anybody was talking about it, and then now I see people doing it, and I go, "Oh, that's cool," but I already did that. So I mean, I'll probably have to do it again, and I know I can. I know how, and how it feels. AM, FM. Oh, so our TV, we had an antenna, and we got one station, and it was called. Hey, welcome. It was called RATNet, Rural Alaska Television Network. Rural Alaska Television Network, RATNet. And you get one station, and they'd play like morning cartoons for the kids real early, PBS, a little bit of PBS stuff. Then it'd go into ABC News stuff, serious mainstream media. And then it'd go into like some weird afternoon PBS stuff. And if there was something special going on, like a ball game, right? Which I didn't care about. I don't watch games, but so you'd be watching a really cool movie, like on really into the movie, and they go boop right to the ball game, right, right in the afternoon. And then when they first got phones around there, regular phones, ring ring, push the buttons. Those phones had a accidental. Sometimes you'd be on a party line, so you'd hear somebody else talking, like. Hey, Jeff, hey, I'm coming over with that stuff you need, and oh, shit, it's Mary over from the post office on the phone, oh, man, funny stuff, funny. But, hey, I may have to run in and get my coffee in a second, but I don't want to lose anybody. I don't want to lose y'all's. I sure enjoy talking. Man, Vanilla, Arctic Vanilla, really, and Paul, and all of you guys, man, you got me all psyched up there. I had 0 people I was talking to, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just turn it off because I didn't really, I like talking, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll just make a video, Hey, did you? Oh yeah, hold on. Yeah, flying out of there all the time, Fairview Inn. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, here's how that all started. And I'll just tell you how I ended up in the Fairview. My first time when I was 20, I was 21. I climbed Denali when I was 21 years old with my best friend, and then another kind of best friend too, and his friend. There was 4 of us, and it was our first time. Pretty inexperienced, but thought we were. How it goes. You think you got it, and so we were like, all right, we trained and we went for it. We got. And so we ended up Talkeetna is where if you're all here and you don't know where Talkeetna is, that's the little town that's south of Denali, about 60 miles. And in the summertime, it's warm and beautiful and hopping. And then you got Denali right there, Mount McKinley, 20,000 feet. And it's frozen and solid and glaciated, and it never gets warm up there, really. And but that's where the climbers go, and they fly up there from Talkeetna. And that's where I spent a lot of time, lots of years, even lived there too a little bit because I had to, being a guide. That's where I would fly onto the glaciers from Talkeetna. So I have a lot of stories from Talkeetna that are pretty epic. I've been around a lot of, just epic, like climbing things that happened in the climbing scene, and people from all over the world doing amazing things while I'm there. And also a lot of accidents that I was on the rescue of and almost involved in, unfortunately. and you know, falling in crevasses, all that stuff, all those mountain stories. But yeah, I love Talkeetna. I just would end up in Talkeetna sometimes because it was just part of it was just kind of in me, and and I had a girlfriend actually we met in Denali. Just we were really good friends, still are. She moved to Talkeetna. We went down to Talkeetna to see the Denali Cooks. My my friend Woody, who started the Denali Cooks with Jim Sandy, who died a couple years ago. Uh, I was the first person he met in Alaska, so those were they were my favorite band in Alaska. We went down to see them, and then she just stayed in Talkeetna, and it wasn't like we had this big breakup. It was like she stayed there, and that's where she still lives with her two kids and her husband. And I went on, and I got married later and all that, and had my kids. But I go to Talkeetna and see her, and I go into Fairview, and boy, I have some. I can't even begin to tell you the stories I have about the Fairview and the people and the pilots, and which you probably know. I'm so stoked, so glad that you're here, and all that stuff makes me kind of feel at home. And all you other guys just showing up when there was no one else here too. So I got 2 likes, and again, I was saying earlier, not really here too much for. It helps to have a couple people to talk to and listen to all this stuff, but for the views, kind of started doing it for fun, and then I had some videos that did very well, and then I just kept making them, and it'll taper off when I'm traveling more, like where I can't really sit down and do stuff like this, But yeah, this is what it is right now. I don't know what time it is. You're in Fairbanks, so it's a little earlier for you. And man, I can't even say this one name here. I love you for being here, man. Yus, oh yeah, Argentina. You still here? Argentina. He may have left. I started going off on Alaska. Paul, you're still here? I don't want to leave you guys, and I was gonna tell a couple more stories, but I may have to go get some coffee and then come back and tell one more story. Arctic Vanilla, if you leave, it was sure good meeting you. I'm gonna be gone for about 2 minutes, filling up my coffee, and we'll talk to you. Eklutna, yeah, yes, Eklutna has some weird stuff. Wait, does it have weird stuff happening lately? Yeah, that ridge. Oh man, you've been up that ridge? I've been on that. I've climbed a whole bunch of that. I used to be in the Anchorage Mountaineering Club. It's great. You're covering all the places I've been. I spent a lot of time there, so you can tell I'm not making it up. I climbed O'Malley and all that stuff outside of Anchorage, and then Eklutna Peak, which was that's pretty. I thought it was kind of hairy, and I climbed Eagle Peak, which is way in the back there, and crossed over into Girdwood. I drove Snowcat in Girdwood. I'll be right back. All right. All right. Well, hey, there's 5 people there. Sorry, I had to go get some more coffee. This is getting serious out here. We're all fired up talking about Alaska river rafting. Oh, there goes somebody. Sorry, see ya. Talking about some rafting stuff that I was doing and in the early days, and boy, then I went into some Anchorage and Alaska and Fairbanks, and we got a few people here. I was talking to Arctic Vanilla about. They're from Fairbanks. They're up in Fairbanks where I used to live and go do all my grocery shopping all the time. And if you have any questions, you guys, ooh, boy, that's some strong coffee, man. Just like I like it on the. Hey, I was just I was saying on my. I've kind of revamped, not revamped. I was working on my. I'm glad this is not a video. I guess it is kind of. I was working on my channel because it's all confusing and I don't know how. I'm not a YouTuber, and so my SEO, my search engine optimization thing or whatever. Anyway, everything was all jacked up, and my foreign languages were all jacked. Everything was just jacked, and I deleted a couple videos, and I just messed up my whole algorithm. So if you're ever wondering about how to mess up YouTube for yourself, I'm the pro. I'm glad I'm not real serious about it, but making sure. Yeah, weird stories of Cluton. Let me know if you. Arctic Vanilla. I'm going to look up some later stuff about Eklutna, but there's also some weird stuff going on up at the near McGrath, and they were talking about that pyramid thing, and I was like, oh, that's just a bunch of crap. And then I actually went with a film crew out there, or as a research crew, and I just stayed in town because I wasn't into it and what they were. I wasn't interested in it. I was actually doing something else at the time, another project. And they were like, oh, we're just talking to people about the Black Pyramid. And I go, cool. And they paid me to, go out there with them. So anyway, they didn't even end up doing anything, with it because they couldn't find out really any information other than some locals that talk about it. And the guy who died out there, who disappeared, there's a guy who went looking for that thing and he disappeared. That's the only thing I was tripping on, is that guy disappeared. And I thought, well, and you could disappear out there very easily. I've hiked out there a whole bunch. It wouldn't be hard, but nobody found him. I mean, the locals usually find dead people, especially there. That's near an area called Telida. Look it up if you're interested in this. Telid. Wait, Telida. Telida. Sorry, I'm having a rough one here trying to remember stuff like usual. But I think it's a smog or something. We'll just blame it on that. Yeah, pretty wild stuff. So yeah, I think I'm going to take the rafting picture down pretty soon because it's going to get dark, and I think it's time to get off the river. When it gets late, you get off the river. Get out of your dry suit. As a guide, that was the first thing they do is open a beer. Right. The raft guide, they get off and they get their tips from the people and say goodbye and everything, and then they roll right to the beer. That's a raft guide for you. That's what I used to do. Hey, anyway, ask some questions if you want, everybody, and I'm going to take down the old vaccine here. Yeah, all right. Now we can sit here right in front. Hello, everybody, all 4 of you. Can't figure out who's. Let's see, we got how much? A lot of rock climbing up in the valley. And I was telling you, I've house sat, done a lot of watching of property places, friends of mine that leave in the winter. And I lived in Wasilla out on Fishhook Road. And so that's real close to Hatcher Pass. So I would go up to Hatcher Pass, mess around a little bit. But yeah, I lived up there. excuse me, hike around a little bit. And then in the summertime, not very, I shouldn't say I climbed up in the valley very much. I went a few times because I was in Denali in the summer. It's hard to get down there. And when I went down there, the rocks were really beautiful. But it was raining every time I went in the summer. But I've spent a lot of time in the winter up at Hatcher Pass and skiing and stuff. I drove a snowcat at Alyeska. I used to drive an Italian, an old, not old, it was brand new. It's called a print-off snowcat. And I never did it before. I conned my way into the job. I said, I can do that because I had driven a tractor or whatever. So the guy took a risk on me, and it was great. I had a great winter. And, well, no, I didn't. I had a really bad winter, but I liked the job. I enjoyed it. I didn't like working at ski resorts very much, though. And I didn't like working nights, so. Yeah, Hatcher Pass. What a great place. And since I've been up there, they've really developed the place. So it's totally different from when I was up there. Hey, number 5th person, where'd you come from? Who are you? Do you want to ask any questions? I'm just hanging out here, getting eaten by mosquitoes. I'll probably wrap it up in a little bit here, finish this coffee, talk a little bit more. I've been messing around with some gear like normal. That's pretty much what I do. And went for a good ride today because it was cooler out. And yeah, just lots of stuff. Do everything early. I get up really early. I'm up at like 4:30, sometimes earlier. 3:30, do some breath work and stretching and be thankful for being alive another day, because it's a miracle I can even breathe. And then I do all that first, and then I, get myself all together and get out. And I work a little bit on the computer first, and then I get rolling, get on the bike, and then come back, eat a little breakfast. When I'm touring, it's a totally different thing. And at this point right now, I'm starting to feel that because it's been about 3 weeks now that I've fully been off Sierra Cascade or Eastern Sierra and not bouncing around even locally to some other places in the desert. Now I've kind of centralized, and it's like, okay, I can feel the rhythm. It's like I got to get the rhythm going. So I got to get out every day. I haul weight with me on every ride. If I go out for the day, I don't just. And here I am back in. There's lots of sirens around here, and I don't even go out this time of night. And I'd rather go out in Colombia this time of night in Medellin and go get something to eat and cruise around the city than out here. It's just weird. It's got a weird vibration to it. Very strange. People are there's a lot of depression, a lot of homeless, a lot of drugs. Now, the one thing I noticed about Oregon, California, everywhere I've been lately, is the fentanyl and the people all hunched over and stuff, and it's just weird to me. And there's every time I go, there's more and more. So I don't know if you guys see that out where you live, but it's wacky out there. They're not, and those aren't dangerous people. Those are people that are just dying right in front of you. And the dangerous ones are just the ones that are trying to get the next couple bucks. Or right now, there's a lot of people that are desperate because they're here and they shouldn't be right here at the moment. And we got a lot of stuff going on. So people say, am I afraid of going to Mexico? Yeah, I'm concerned but I'm concerned about going out here too. So I balance it all out, and that's what makes me miss Alaska. Except for, I know Alaska's got hard. Even Fairbanks has crappy parts of town, man. Anchorage really does. Sketchy, Mountain View and all that stuff. But it's just different. You can get away. And then you go out to like Wasilla, and I lived in Wasilla. Woo! You get some wackiness. And I've lived there. I got a lot of friends there now, and they don't fight that. They agree, man. You got to be careful where you go. Real careful. I talk about all these stories in the Sierra, all my scary stories and stuff. Those aren't scary. What's scary are the stories in Alaska that I know of and have kind of had to and been part of and around. And I haven't. like I was saying to somebody the other night, I can't even tell some of the stories on YouTube. I get kicked off, they're not, I don't know where you tell those stories at. And they sure as hell don't tell them here because, anyway, my Columbia stories, man, do I tell them here? I don't think so. I'm going to tell one coming up pretty soon about getting beat up and robbed, one of them. And then I'll go into the one where I got robbed by a woman and then stuff like that. So, and a man got robbed by both kinds, both flavors. Two people missing now? Wow. Yeah, see. Okay, so here's the deal. If you look hard enough for that black pyramid, so get on Google Earth and get a good Google Earth. I don't know. There's like, can't just use the one that I have on maps. And go to Talida. Just look up the whatever they have on Google for the Black Pyramid. I think I even put it in a video. The coordinates. Look it up, and if you get real close, you'll see what's out there. There is a thing out there. It's all fenced in, and it's a runway, and it's and it's not a village. The villagers say that's it's a government thing, or a state thing or something. I don't know. That's exactly where that is. So yeah, it would be like there would be something there. Now, and it's not blotted out. There is some stuff that's blotted out. That's not what we're looking for out there. That's not it. That's something else. That's just blotted out for a national park, or I'm not sure. That's not that Black Pyramid. That the spot where that Black Pyramid is allegedly is, and you'll see it. It's a fence. It's a square, I think, rectangle, and then white. It's like really distinct white buildings, with a radar and a couple little things, and that's it. So it's like, and in Alaska, we got a lot of that. We got a lot of little facilities here and there that just look like, hey, they're just little military outposts, and they all have an explanation for what they are. It's not the Black Pyramid, gee, but who knows, man? Yeah, I've been out to Anderson. Hey, I got a story for you. This is a video story right here. So, Anderson Air Force Base is near Denali, but it's in between Denali and Fairbanks. And it's a high security Air Force base, has a booth. You can't go there. I have friends that work there. So I was with a guy he was a raft guide, and he was moving to Alaska, and he said, hey, I gave him a ride to get the U-Haul. He needed a U-Haul, right? So I took him to Fairbanks to get the U-Haul, and he drove the U-Haul, and he drove it back to Denali. He's going to come back to Denali, and he's got to go. Now, to get to the Air Force Base, you got to go off a road to a place called Anderson. It's called Anderson, little town, but if you keep going straight, you end up straight at the Air Force Base, and you can't just go there. And so this guy's like, I'm going to go see what Anderson looks like, not the base. He's going into town. They have a DMV there. It's a little teeny town, Anderson. And he's like driving his U-Haul out there, and he misses the turnoff and goes straight toward the base, out the road. He's not on the base. And he's just driving along, and he's in a U-Haul van. And he keeps going, and before he even gets to the gate, there's a truck behind him with the lights on, a truck in front of him across the road with guns out on him, because he was in a U-Haul truck. This is a true story, man. He was a raft guide, and he has another. I got another story about him right after this, but that's what happened to him. He's rolling up in a U-Haul to Anderson Air Force Base. They pull guns on him. He thinks he's just going to Anderson, the town. And it's a little confusing, I have to admit. But, it would say that Air Force Base, and he probably just kept going, like, meaning to turn around. After that, I don't really know what that happened. They let him go. He just said, sorry, I was just trying to go to Anderson. They said, yeah, you're the reason we're doing this is you're in a U-Haul van. So, anyhow, then that guy, the same guy, raft guide from Arkansas, he for Halloween he dresses up as a cop, and somebody had a bulletproof vest you know, and he borrowed it to be a cop for Halloween. And he got on Facebook and goes, "Hey, happy Halloween!" And he was doing something, and he went home, went to bed that night, and his door was broken down by the alcohol to ATF. ATF. That same guy. ATF busts his door down. His girlfriend and him are in bed. He's like, and they rip him out of bed, and they go through the whole thing. Facebook, you had a bulletproof vest. That's illegal. And yeah, you're not supposed to have a cop's bulletproof vest. And that's what he had on. And his name was Elvis. I'm going to talk. I can say his name, Elvis. Haven't heard from him in a while. Hope he's all right. Man, those are good stories. Those are worth videos almost. But you got to hear them right here live. 2 people are listening. Okay, no one's talking. That's cool. I guess I'm doing all the rambling and talking to you about Alaska stuff, man. Yeah, that's a great story. Boy, yeah, the other stories that happened right there, it's in one of my videos, is seeing the guy, the hunter, that moose hunter that didn't have any legs, and a paraplegic guy, and he's well known in that region. And well, he was, and now these days, like, I didn't even see him the last few years I was up there. But hey, welcome whoever just showed up. We're just talking about Alaska stuff and some of my rafting days, and then we're talking to Arctic Vanilla here and Paul Hallman and whoever else is here about Alaska. But if you got any questions, throw them out there. I'm finishing up my coffee before I head inside, and that's about all that's going on here. Man, Arctic Vanilla, you've been all over Alaska too. How long have you been up there? Are you born and raised, or you come from, like me, came from somewhere else? No, I moved up there in '85 from Chico, California. So my daughters and my ex-wife, my former wife, they all lived up in Alaska too for years, and we had a business together. And but I moved up to Alaska alone when I was young, and then my former wife came up when I was in my 30s. I invited her up, and she got really into Alaska. She's still a lover of Alaska and very connected to it. And my daughters too. My daughters, spent some years up there, and so now they're back in California and successful in their lives, and they're great. They support me in my weird and wacky life that I live on the bike and sort of on and off the bike, I should say. Oh, right on. Long time. Well, you've seen it all too. You remember that? Oh, you remember him. Oh, I wish you. 7 people here. I made a video. I don't know if you saw the video about me picking him up in the winter. He had killed a moose. Man, nobody believes that story, and you're here to. Oh, thank you. You're so cool. You've seen the disabled guy in Esther. Yeah. That's where I dropped him off. Well, just outside of Esther. Out by, just outside of Esther. So I picked him up outside of Nenana, and he had just killed a moose. So I'm driving down the highway. If any of you are here haven't heard this story, Arctic Vanilla's here and knows this guy I picked up or knew of him. I don't think he's around anymore, it sounds like. But I'm driving in the winter time in my big Suburban, heading to Fairbanks. Hey, welcome, 8th person. We're going to tell a quick story right now. It's really interesting. We got Arctic Vanilla here. Is proof. I made a video about a guy I picked up in Alaska who didn't have legs, and he was moose hunting. Nobody believed me. I got all sorts of BS. I even lost subscribers after I posted that. But, that's how it goes. We're weeding out the real people here, right? Because I'm real. I'm telling real stories. This guy, I'm driving, and I see something, looks like a half a person sticking up he had a big hat. Did he have that big hat on? He wore a big hat, and the hat looked really big because he was down here, and he had kind of a leather thing on the bottom of his, torso, and overall suspenders, Carhartt, big heavy duty Carhartts, and a duffel bag, big duffel bag, and then a rifle. And I think it's somebody hitchhiking, like, laying down, how some people do, is kicking back, and there's like a guy, either half a guy or a guy's like laying down, and I'm pulling up to the guy. I'm like, oh, hey, is he okay? And I look down out of the passenger side. I pull over. He's in a pullout, and I look over. I roll my window down because it's cold. I don't want to get out first. I look out the passenger side. I got a big 4-wheel drive truck, and I go, hey, and he goes, hey, just trying to get a ride up north, like toward Fairbanks. I go, no problem. And I go, I'll get out. And he goes, no, open the door. And I open the door, the passenger side, from the inside. That guy grabbed the door. I got out anyway. He grabbed the door. He pulls himself up into the truck, reaches down, grabs the duffel bag and the rifle, which is, together. Grabbed, if I remember, something else. And he says, yeah, I got to come back and get the moose. He's got the moose quartered out in the woods. He's not very far. That's what people do. They just go off the highway if they know the spot. And he scooted himself. He had a kiddie sled too, which he left there. So when he gets back, they can shuttle the meat. And so I give him a ride. He gets in, sitting there. I'm like, just dumbfounded. I go, dude, hey. He's like, yeah, I just killed a moose, and I'm John or Jack or whatever. And I go, okay. I don't remember his name. And I gave him a ride. Now I had picked him up again later, years later. But it was like a half a guy sticking out of the road, and he just killed a moose. And I got him in my truck. It was the coolest story. And he was very strong, moved himself around. That guy moose hunted without legs, a sled and that. And I'm so glad you're here and you saw him before, because nobody believed me. I'm going to keep this feed somehow. I got to keep it. I'll take a picture of it. You saw that guy, and I'm going to do another video. It's going to follow up on this, because that guy was well known. And I said that in the video. This guy was known, and you remember him. And you've been there since 1980. Right on. Did you ever eat breakfast over at Sourdough Sam's, or I think that's what it was called, Sourdough Sam's, out there by, on the way to Fred Meyer and the car wash, right by the car wash. Hey, eighth person, we're talking about Alaska just because it came up, because our friend Arctic Vanilla's here, and he knows about the story about me picking up the guy with no legs who just killed a moose. True story. He was hunting, and he was around Alaska for a long time. Sourdough closed. Yeah, it closed when I was there last time. It's been closed, but I was just, since you'd been there so long, I was wondering if you eating breakfast there. I used to eat there all the time, and the waitress there used to be our postmaster at Denali years ago. And then her and her husband Squeaky, he was a tractor driver. They moved up to Fairbanks and retired up there, built their house, and those were good days. And she got a job at Sourdough. Yeah. Right on. Yeah, good stories, man. Yeah, I'll tell more about that. So that hunting guy, hey, did you ever see the bearded lady, Nancy? And I haven't seen her in years. It was right around that same time. I picked them both up on the same trip once. Yeah, so now she liked that name, and she worked at Skinny Dick's. Yeah, I remember the igloo. I think he's still there, the big igloo. So I camped behind there on my bike one time when I was doing a bike trip up. I used to do my annual bike trip, not every year. I called it that. I would bike from Anchorage or Wasilla up to the park to start my job. Or I'd get off the glacier and then bike up from Talkeetna. I'd leave my gear in Talkeetna for climbing all the time at a friend's house. So all the glacier stuff stayed in Talkeetna, and then I head up to Denali. And but it's just dependent on what year. I mean, I lived in Denali as a full timer, year round, working construction. My girlfriend was a carpenter at the time. She's a master woodworker, carpenter, and pretty well known in the Alaska trades, and worked all sorts of North Slope, all over, built lots of stuff for big companies, and one of the only, I mean, a lot of women in Alaska construction, but she was pretty well known in that circuit. Taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about of what I know as a carpenter now. Yeah, the big igloo, right on. Very cool, you guys. I think I got a little coffee left in here. That means I probably got another story. I don't know. We'll see. I've You're making me miss. You know how it is missing Alaska. You're up there now. Well, you're in there. It's a nice time of season. Everything's growing big. It's all nice and green and beautiful. It's what I love, really love about it. And then winter comes and it's just as beautiful on the other extreme. I used to go out to Chena Hot Springs, and I went to a wedding out at Circle Hot Springs once. My girlfriend's brother, his wedding. We got in Hot Springs, and someone said, "Hey, somebody died in there last night." And I immediately got out and said, "Oh, that's enough for me." Somebody died in there the night before I'd taken a nice dip. Oh, you have? Trapper Creek is where that happened. Between Trapper Creek and the McKinley viewpoint, you know where I'm talking about, obviously. That story happened. I was going north from Trapper Creek. I'd been in Talkeetna, and I'm cruising it, and there's really nobody out in that section except for there used to be that. Well, it's still somebody's redeveloped this place now. That Viewpoint restaurant or something, but it was closed when I was there. I was hoping it was open because that guy was harassing me around there, and I was like, "Shit, man." But I've like you, I have spent so many years on that highway doing so many things. I've seen the weirdest stuff, accidents, weird things on. So I haven't even started into it yet. I have not even started the weird, but that was a weird one because I felt like, well, it was a good one because I was on the bike. Some of my ones have been driving on the Parks Highway, and I'll tell those two. Uh, and then some I won't because they were accidents. I don't need to talk about gory accidents on here. We'll just talk about kind of stuff that's, you know, mystery stuff or fun stuff to talk about, or just Alaska, Eastern Sierra. Really? Yeah, I always have that bear spray. Yeah, that's the same place where I was. It is because it's well, I'll tell you why I think it's true. Because that area's just got a lot of. I mean, I know people that live out kind of close to there, and I actually know a guy who lives there who I haven't seen in years, and he actually kind of went off the deep end. He's still alive. He just lives. He just won't have people around. That's just the kind of guy he is. He will not have. He's a Vietnam vet and really nice guy, an old friend of mine. And last time I saw him, he goes, "I just don't want to talk to anybody anymore." It was right around the COVID thing happening. Last summer, widows are everywhere on that highway. Really? It's gotten worse. Damn. That's unfortunate, man. When I moved there to Healy, Healy, uh, there was there was one cop, Ray Gary, and he covered the area between Anderson, Nenana, right, all the way to Cantwell. That's like 200 miles, and he covered that, and he was the only trooper. And so, it was a little different back then. We didn't have a lot of problems, but when we did, it was like, well, he'll be there probably tomorrow, or maybe he'll be there in a few hours. That was the way. Now there's a few troopers. There's like 6 in the region, but and it's still if you have a problem, it could be a couple hours before the trooper comes to help you out. So you got to be ready. You got to be self-sufficient. You got to be ready on your own. It's where I learned it, Alaska. When I went to South America, even though it's a different dynamic, a lot of the things, just the awareness things I had to use, they fell right into place. But it was different. It was going from, you know, region to region. And but yeah, Alaska's got a lot of strange things that happen. People can go, Alaska is a place also, and this. Arctic Vanilla. A lot of good people in Alaska, and they'll help you out. And but then there's a lot of people that just like to be left alone, and then there's a lot of people that kind of also, uh, if you're not in the right mindset, being alone too much can make you snap. So people snap, and then there's just the drugs. Now you got the drugs going on in Fairbanks, Anchorage, and out Wasilla, all the way up the highway, anywhere. But Denali remains to be pretty mellow, and Healy. Healy has little, incidents here and there once in a while, but they're all isolated things, and it's not a big problem. And I'm connected there right now to this minute. People there living there, and the last job I did was when you go through Denali and you go through Healy, that big Princess Resort that you see there. Well, I helped move that resort, their employee housing, 25 buildings, 13 miles. I took them all apart. I cut them all in thirds. I was the head person on cutting them apart. And then we had a crew taking them. And then we had taking them apart, re-putting them back to get reassembling them back in Healy on a big flat pad. You'll see it when you're going by Healy. And that was my job with a company called Rock and Roll Construction, which is a big company. Sounds like a little, hippie company, but they're big. They do all the Princess Tours work, and we moved and rebuilt all of Princess, but it was 700 people and about 60 contractors, in the whole thing. Fairbanks to Anchorage, Wasilla, a lot of different people on that job. That was a big winter. That was my last construction job in Denali in Alaska, and I was done. And that's why I'm right here on my bike now. I'll come back to Alaska though. I'm climbing next year and all that, so I'll be back again. But I'm doing less construction in Alaska. Summertime, I go up and do a little project for a friend, but no more, no way, no how, no more slope, no more Prudhoe Bay, no more Denali resort construction, wintertime stuff. I just can't do it anymore. Too cold. And I like the cold, but I just don't want to, my body can't take it working that way anymore. And when I ride the bike, my body feels better, and I can do, I'm a better carpenter and just an all around better guy when I'm riding my bike. So that's just the reality of it. So I spent a lot of years as kind of a grumpy old carpenter in Alaska, and not all the time, but it really was wearing on me. So that's when I decided to change it up. And then after my accident in Colombia and a couple of times epics down there, being there for a year, then things really changed. And so now my life's a lot different. And Alaska is still a big part of me though. So, well, guys, I'm really getting chewed up out here by these mosquitoes, but I'm talking to a guy who's in Alaska and I'm in California. So that doesn't really jive too well, does it? That doesn't make any sense. But I got to say, they are pretty gnarly here out where I am right now. And it makes me think, I used to think, oh, yeah, there's nothing like Alaska. The mosquitoes really bad. But up in the Sierra, they were pretty bad this summer. I was starting to wonder. But yeah, you're in Alaska. You're still in mosquito season. So, man, hang in there. I'm glad you're there. And glad you got in touch with me on here today. That's really cool. Looks like somebody just jumped on. So I'll stay on for a minute and just say we've been talking about Alaska with a couple people here. We've got Arctic Vanilla. I think I lost a couple people because me and Arctic Vanilla have been going off on Alaska. Or I have, I should say. But welcome, whoever's here, and getting ready to wrap it up pretty soon. We talked a little bit about the video on Alaska, rafting days, my rafting days up there, my construction days, my mountain guiding days. So here's the thing about that. I should talk about this now. I got 8 people here. It's like, well, people go, how did you be a carpenter, a mountain guide, and a river guide? It's because it's seasonal. So I'm not doing all those things at once. And so for many years, I was a carpenter in the winter. And a lot of us that are guides that work guiding jobs in Alaska, Those don't work in the winter unless you're like guiding skiing or some sort of winter mountaineering or whatever, or you're a ski guide, something. But mainly, uh, the guide, my classic job, and a lot of guides go to work construction in the winter or something else. But construction, carpentry is pretty common, and then what happens to them if they're young is then they meet a young, pretty girl who is infatuated with their raft guide lifestyle, and then they fall in love and have kids, get some dogs, and the guide has to turn into a guy that does construction all the time, year round. And the guiding was just something that used to be not all of them. That happens to a lot of people. So you end up, you know, well, everybody, most of I'm sure how that works. I don't want to assume, but that's the lifestyle I led. Now, I'm still really great friends with my former wife and stuff, but I will say when I was a guide, I tried to make, mold into the regular lifestyle, traditional lifestyle, as most people do after you have kids and everything. You go into that life and get the car and the boats and the houses and everything that comes along with it, and that's your life. And I was never too good at that. I did that, and that's what I did, and but I didn't do it to the extreme as a lot of people did. And thank God, my kids still love me, and my former wife still likes me. But I never was. I couldn't mold into that lifestyle very well. I did it for a long time. I was a family man, hardcore, and I had a business with my wife in Alaska, and that's what we did, and we did a really good job at it. But eventually, this is where I ended up, and everybody ended up in good places, and that's the main thing. So here we are, just doing our thing. Everybody's doing their own thing, and I'm thankful. One of my kids just wrote me a letter recently, typed it in an old classic 1800s typewriter. Said, "Dad," she said, and I won't be able to quote it exactly. Said, "You taught me." She said, "I appreciate you. You taught me to look at life like an expedition, and not to look at things with tunnel vision, narrow perspective, something like that. But to look at life like an expedition. Oh, that's funny. I didn't really, but to treat it like a journey, and it's ongoing, and to that's what she did, and that's what she's done. So yeah, I'm glad that carried on over that way, but I never really planned it to. I never really tried to instill climbing or my lifestyle into my children at all. As a matter of fact, I didn't really care for them to be climbers or do the stuff I wanted, or I did. I was more paranoid about that. But I'm glad they do what they do now, and they're doing their own thing. They mold their own lifestyle. Didn't hammer those things into them like a lot of parents do to their kids. And that works out great in some situations, but yeah, I never did that. And I took my kids out and did outdoor stuff, and but it wasn't like I was going to take, hey, since I was a rock climber, I'm going to take you up El Cap, or climbing or something. I just didn't push it that way. Hey, I got 10 people here. It's getting dark. I'm sorry. It looks so weird here now. We're in the evening sky. It's definitely going down quick in Southern California. And just chit-chatting a little bit here with a few people. We've been with Arctic Vanilla from Alaska, who got me rolling on a whole bunch of Alaska stories and stuff from my Alaska days. So I hope it wasn't too boring for y'all. But it's been fun to talk about. And you sparked Arctic Vanilla, sparked more ideas for a couple more videos, and your stories. It's amazing, like you had those stories in the same spot. Hey, if you guys just got here and you watched my video about the guy that I picked up hitchhiking, he had no legs, big old hat, in the middle of the winter, and he just killed a moose. No one believed me, but there's a person here named Arctic Vanilla who lives in Fairbanks and used to see that guy on the highway. And I think you saw him on the highway, right? Down by Esther. Yeah. So I tell true stories here, man. But they're outlandish, and I'm just so thankful that you showed up to say on here that you saw, you witnessed. I wish we knew his name. I don't remember his name. But I picked him up hitchhiking. He had just killed a moose. He had no legs, big, huge arms, and he got himself in the truck when I opened the door. Duffel bag, rifle, hardcore, really hardcore. Man, do I got stories. And you do too. Share them with me more, Arctic Vanilla. I'm going to keep them. If you want, I'll tell them on here. Pretty soon, I'm going to start popping on somebody on the screen here. When I learn how to do it, I'm going to do that tonight. And so you can be on here telling your story, and I don't have to tell it. But that's only if you want to. And I know some people don't want to be on here. I don't really care to be on screen. But I got used to it. It's what it is. I like telling my stories and showing people where I am, where I'm going, and all that kind of stuff. But it's real cool that you were here to kind of back up my story about the guy who I picked up hitchhiking who didn't have legs, who killed a moose. It was really cool. He was a hunter. He was killing moose to survive, not just to kill a moose for, his antlers. He was hunting for the food. When I passed the road to McCarthy last week, I thought about your story. Oh, God. Oh, man. You watched that one? Those people that picked me up? Okay. Well, so McCarthy's where I had that black bear, couple of black bears, with the one next to the tent by my face. Right by my face. Just standing there, right there. I just peeked out the tent. He's right there. Right there. That's that same trip. I don't know if you watched that video. So I'd already had enough, right? I was like, I'm getting the heck out of McCarthy. I have a friend that lives in Kennecott, or Kenny Lake, sorry. Kenny Lake he went through. So he lives in Kenny Lake. He said, oh, go down to McCarthy and hang out. And so I was there for a while. I rode down there and then hitchhiked back with those people. You watch that video. They were really nice. They picked me up, right? A native family. And they, a local kind of well-known family. And they said, if you ever come to Gulkana, they lived in Gulkana. They said, come into town and just, they said, we're on the right-hand side. There's only a few houses. Just yell our name. And somebody will say, that's what you do in those little towns. So anyway, they gave me a ride. And we were like heading out of, that Four Corners of Glen Allen there. And here we go. And they're like talking. It was really cool. And they stopped at a friend's, and they stopped at the store too. And they stopped at a friend's, and they were in there for a little bit, and I wasn't into hanging out. And then they got back in the car, and they were in a great mood. It was even a better mood, I'm like, all right, cool, We're rolling down the highway. Yeah, you passed by there. You were just down there. What a trip. So right there, the mosquitoes were really bad. And I had to take a ride from these people. I was going to think about another ride, but just couldn't do it. I just had to stay in the car. And they were drinking their little water bottles, but it was vodka. And the girl in the back seat was their daughter talking to me, and she was cool. But then they started getting kind of argumentative with each other, and it was getting, we want to take a smoke break, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, shit, this is getting ugly, man. I knew they were buzzed at this time. But the dad never talked. He never talked, but he was getting aggravated. He had these big, wide eyes, And he kept looking back at the daughter like he's getting, mad. I want a cigarette, Dad. Pull over, And so then he finally pulls over. This happened 4 or 5 times. And finally, like after all the epic, him weaving through traffic and pass on that's a gnarly road, that road heading back to Anchorage. Lots of accidents on that road. So I knew that. And I was scared the whole ride. I was white-knuckled. I was, everything. Anyway, we got finally to close to Palmer. And, right there, he just whipped it on the side of the road on the gravel and got sideways. And there was traffic behind us. And I thought for sure someone's calling the troopers at that point. And everybody got out and had a cigarette right there. Right there. I mean, they had the cigarettes going. And it was still dusty from him getting all over on the side of the road, squarely. And he's just sitting over there, and the people going by, it was like a summer day, lots of traffic. He was holding up traffic for a little bit. And holy cow, man. Wild. Pretty wild. And then I got back in with him because we were so close to town. Made it to town. Old Glen Highway. Yeah, going through Chickaloon. Right there through Chickaloon where it was getting real curvy, he was really going fast. And I almost thought about getting out there because there's some places you could hide out from mosquitoes. But I had a ticket out of town out of Anchorage flying out. So I expected to get there with a little time, and I did. I had a little time because I stayed in that crazy death ride. Yeah, I'm so glad you know all these places and you're able to be here like while people are listening to to hear that story. Is they're all true. The only stories that aren't, I tell stories on here that aren't not my stories, and most of them are like investigations. I did get in trouble the other night for misleading people, but I wasn't. I was talking about the little boy who was missing from camp for a while at Shasta years ago, McLeod, and he had gone into one of those lava tunnel caves and saw, the old lady that came out, robot grandma or whatever. I know, it sounds weird. Look it up. And she told him all sorts of stuff. And he saw like old guns and old bags and backpacks from a long time ago for some reason that were left there and from people that had gone in there, and she took them down into the land down below, or I don't know, whatever. Maybe he took some mushrooms or something. Who knows? But the little kid came back with such a wild story that other people had told. And that happened in Mount Shasta, McLeod, same area. And somebody wrote me or said that I was nuts and misleading and all, because that happened in McLeod. And I go, well, yeah, it happened in Mount Shasta and McLeod. And it's the same spot. And they maybe lived in Kentucky or something. I don't know. So I try not to have any misinformation. David Benfer, I know a lot about him, and we're going to make another video because I camped at some of his favorite spots, and I have video of it at Baker Creek of me camping there using the old machine he used and all his favorite little haunts. David Benfer has been missing for 10 years, if you guys don't know. Some of you do. And I made a video about him. His mother contacted me. Other people contacted me. No information on him. I don't even know if it was really his mother or some other people said they were friends of his and said he's fine. That way it was fake. I could tell it was fake the way these people, I'd look at who they were and they weren't. You just got to put two and two together sometimes. And that's what I try to do, But I knew about David Benfer years ago. He's kind of got me more motivated to do some of the routes I did. I'd watch his videos. So, well, all 10 of you are watching. And if anyone has any questions or anyone wants to introduce themselves and talk about their stories in the future or now, I'm going to be doing. Hey, do you guys know who? What's his name? I'll remember in a second. Well, I can't remember. He does camping stories, and I'm going to bring him on here, or I'm going to mention him on here. But he does like camping mystery stories, and he's like real famous on YouTube. He does a little bit of stuff like I do, but he'll be like camping with the fire and using the tent and everything, and I do that too. But I've been here at base camp for a while, so now that we're YouTubing, I'll be doing more of that kind of stuff. But I really like him, and I wish I remembered his name, and I was hoping I would so I could tell you about him. Well, that didn't help him or me, did it? Anyway, Interstate Kyle's one I watch, and that's how I get a lot of my road. I watch. He drives and films the whole road, Interstate Kyle, and I like watching. He has driven almost every road I ever wanted to be on, as far as interstates and main paved roads and things like that. Interstate Kyle, if you ever want to see something cool like that. And yeah. All right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Hey, somebody just joined, but we've been talking about Alaska, camping and hiking and rafting in Alaska. It's getting dark, and mosquitoes were biting me, but now they're mellowing out. It's getting too cold for them, but it's getting dark. And please subscribe if you haven't, if you want to, if you like my stories. And I know most of you guys here are already subscribed, so that's great. I appreciate you guys watching me, man. Arctic Vanilla. It's great to have an Alaskan here. You know how it is. A fellow Alaskan. It's a big deal to me. That's camaraderie all the way. Hey, where's the 8 other people at? Where do you live? I know you want to tell me. Maybe not. I don't want to make you unsubscribe. I don't want to be pushy, but I'm gonna wrap it up. Hey, I got another video I already made. I'm editing that now, so that'll be coming out in the morning. And yeah, I'm making videos a lot. You know, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it hurts my algorithm. I don't care. I'm here to have fun while I'm in a safe place. You know, hanging out, nice safe bed to crawl into, and you know, go in and I don't know, watch a little YouTube or something, study my route, stuff like that. That's what I do. I like studying the places I'm going. That's all I do pretty much. Talk to my daughters, you know, and haven't been talking to them much because they've been busy and I've been doing YouTube a lot. So we're going to get together soon here before I take off wherever I go on this next one. I appreciate you too, man. Very much. You know, all our little corners up there. We're going to talk more, I hope. I look forward to talking to you. I'll make sure I make announcements on here and come on at, you know, I like coming on around this time. It's my favorite time of day. Well, I like mornings too, but this is my favorite time of day to talk. I don't want to talk in the morning too much. All 10 of you, I really appreciate you very much. You're taking time out of your life to sit here with me. That's a big deal because I value my time when I go watch somebody's video, and I'll just, you know, I'll just move on if it's no fun. So I want to make it fun and interesting for you guys. But the bottom line is it's got to be fun for me to be authentic. And so I'm going to stay that way because I'm not really even at heart. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just a guy out doing this, you know, and you guys are out here with me by the campfire. So, all right, man. Have a great one. I'll see you guys all probably tomorrow night. All right. Come on over tomorrow night. I'll come out for some coffee. See you, Arctic. Sleep good, man.